Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for that lovely introduction. So the clicker is definitely broken, so you're going to have to bear with me as I say next slide. So next slide, please, guys. So I'm Deann Evans. We can go to the next slide again. That's great. So we've already shared a few of these stats and talked about really the size and scale of Shopify. One interesting thing that I wanted to share with you, kind of beyond where we are and how big we are, is actually that Shopify puts retailers on the right side of change. And by doing that, we're helping them create an enormous amount of economic activity throughout the world. So our Shopify merchants in the last year, in 2021, created 5 million jobs globally. So if you put that together, that would be the world's largest workforce. So it's pretty incredible impact. And specifically in the UK, we were 197,100 jobs. Next slide. So we're pushing really the boundaries of what's next in commerce. We operate at incredible scale, and we operate across the globe with a lot of different merchants. We talked about some of them, Ooni, War Paint for Men in the UK. And so we are focused on helping them do what's next and face the changes that are coming in commerce and retail. Next slide. So Shopify is no changer to change and disruption. We thrive on it. It's in our DNA as an entrepreneurship company. And thrive on change is actually one of our core values. So this is something that we are very passionate about. And if we look at what's happened in the last 5 to 10 years, no one could have ever thought about TikTok, where we just had the wonderful presentation from Patrick, and how it would completely change how Gen Z socializes and how they buy. There was also the impact of Web3. So this is completely changing the foundations of the internet. And no one could have imagined how D2C would shake up the retail industry. So, during the pandemic, we saw a huge shift, and we saw e-commerce push forward 10 years in 15 months. So there's been significant change in the world of commerce. Next slide. So what are these changes? Well, there have been structural shifts that have impacted the retail landscape and that are going to be impacting the retail landscape in the coming years. And so if we look at the state of the economy, right, we're coming out of the pandemic, we're heading into a lot of inflation, economic headwinds. We also have the internet, and we have privacy. Next slide. So what do these structural changes look like? So the state of economy is really forcing people to reevaluate their spending behaviors. And we're seeing that soaring inflation, we have rising energy costs. There are a lot of things that are happening that are making consumers change their habits. And McKinsey did a survey in the UK where they saw that 70% of consumers have said they have changed their spending habits in the last 3 months. And then we have Brexit. It's still impacting both consumers and merchants alike. So everything from labor shortages to trade tariffs to the movement of goods, there are significant changes that are happening. And so we see that our merchants are having to adopt their growth strategies and make sure that they're looking at things like more discounts, new product categories, or international expansion. Next slide. So the second shift that we're seeing is the internet. So we've moved far away from the world of just simple web stores and marketplaces. Commerce is exploding on social platforms. We talked about TikTok and also on YouTube. Web3 is starting to disrupt how we buy and sell through the increased adoption of cryptocurrencies and NFTs by merchants and consumers alike. So what's really interesting here is that the D2C model is no longer enough to really propel your brand forward. So I'm going to take a stop here for a second and explain this chart. So you can see the yellow line is digitally native brands, D2C e-commerce sales growth, and the blue line is established brands, D2C's commerce sales growth. So you can see that the digitally native brands and the D2C brands used to have a real leg up in terms of growth from the D2C models and the D2C strategies. But what we're seeing is that come to 2024, these two lines are going to converge and come together. So these D2C tactics and all these changes are no longer going to be enough to drive the sales growth that retail brands need moving forward into the next decade. Next slide. So the third shift that we're seeing is all the changes around privacy. So Apple's decision to allow users to opt out of in-app tracking has had a significant impact on retailers and merchants. So merchants are spending more and they're gaining less. And so we've seen with some of our merchants, they're now spending 5 times more than they used to drive the same amount of traffic to their site and to drive the same amount of sales. So from a merchant's perspective, their marketing strategies can't stand still, and they need to look at their marketing mix in a different way. So their old return on ad spend models in the D2C world are no longer what's going to take them forward and drive the growth that they need. Next slide. So, and actually there's going to be 3 transitions on this. If you guys just want to put them all up, that's fine. That's great, thank you. So, so the result is that retailers, big and small, can't afford to sit on the sidelines, right? So complacency will kill your business, and it's important to try something new. And the reality is that consumers are much more discerning with their spend and with their loyalty. So they're harder to reach, they're more spread across so many more surfaces, and you have to work overtime to really build, to cultivate their audience and loyalty. So we're seeing a solution, and it's a new world in retail. It's a radically easier way to win this new era of commerce, and we're calling it Connect to Consumer. So that's it, it's Connect to Consumer, that's the solution. So if we no longer have online marketplaces and one-stop shores, so online marketplaces and one-stop shores like eBay and Amazon, they kind of defined commerce in the 2000s, but then we had D2C brands in the 2010s. So what we're saying is now C2C will define the future. So this is the way to move forward and to find growth in 2022 and beyond. Next slide. So what is C2C? How do you C2C? What will it do for your impact or for your business? So C2C is many pathways to consumers. It places authenticity, loyalty, and trust at the heart of every merchant and consumer interaction. It's where brands are being authentic with their storytelling, they are connecting with consumers, and they're doing it across multiple pathways. So this could be wholesale commerce like B2B, community commerce, social commerce with services like TikTok, and offline commerce, local commerce. So there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different areas for you to be able to connect with your consumers. And we have to make sure that we're truly embracing this concept of retail everywhere. So we need to move commerce beyond the transaction. Commerce is about a lot more than just a transaction. It's about cultivating and building a long-lasting and trusting relationship with your consumer. Next slide, please. So, how do we connect to these consumers? So as we've said, commerce is not just about the transaction, it's about the connection. And if we zoom out and think back to 2007 when we all had smartphones in our hand for the first time, this really changed how we interacted, how we communicated, how we shopped. And then we had COVID, which has accelerated commerce in e-commerce by 10 years, right? But we're coming out of the pandemic now, and our old habits are coming back. So we need to make sure that we are moving forward and going into this new era of commerce. And businesses need to be flexible, they need to be agile, they need to understand the unique interests of their customers, and they need to make sure that they're giving them choice and showing up everywhere that they are. Next slide. So we'll start with offline. I think we've all been talking about omni-channel and multi-channel for a long time, right? But what we know is that coming out of the pandemic, offline has soared again in popularity. And we're seeing it at Shopify. So our GMV, our merchants' offline GMV, has increased 47% year over year on Q2. So we're seeing that return to store. And what we know is that we need to reimagine the store, and we need to make sure that we're doing this in a different way that's meaningful. So I'll give you a great example of this. One of our merchants, Gymshark, launched the D-Load barbershop. And they used this barbershop. What they did is that they had barbers that were mental health trained barbers who could then cut their customers' hair. So if you came into the D-Load barbershop, you had an authentic experience, you sat in that chair, and you had a mental health professional that you could speak to. And this aligns with Gymshark's brand. So they're taking a stand on mental health and helping their customers. And so this is an example and a way that you can use this offline experience to do something very unique, positioned well with your storytelling. And this is what we're seeing innovative brands do. They're spending time creating these experiences for their customers where they're really connecting. Go to the next slide. And social commerce. So social commerce is another pathway that you can't afford to ignore, right? So there's a lot of experimentation that is happening with C2C on social media and on social commerce. And we know that this is something that's going to continue to grow. And so we launched a partnership with YouTube where we enabled creators and merchants to easily sell on their YouTube channels. And we're seeing this happen now in the UK. And it's everything from the United Stand, which is a Manchester United unofficial football fan club. They've got over 1 million users who are buying merch through their YouTube integration. Lifestyle influencers like Gabrielle Lindley. We even have an exotic mushroom grower in Devon who is selling mushroom growing kits through this channel. And this is important because we're seeing a huge increase again in social commerce. So year over year in Q2, we saw a 5-time increase for orders placed through these surfaces. So making sure that you're connecting with this and that you're actually using social commerce as a channel is extremely important in the future of commerce. Next slide. And then Web3. This is a new frontier in the world of C2C. So Web3 is creating a lot of new opportunities with consumers. Consider how a token or NFT in your wallet can unlock exclusive offers online or maybe a VIP experience in store. And this is what we're calling token-gated commerce. And we know this is already hitting the mainstream. So Starbucks has rolled out or is rolling out a Web3-enabled rewards program to enable exclusive perks. So this is something that both small brands and big brands are taking advantage of it. And we have our Dutch streetwear retailer, Daily Paper. So they rolled out an NFT for their community that's unlocking exclusive brand drops and VIP access to events. So this is something that we call token-gated commerce. And the way that token-gated commerce works at Shopify is that a user will have an NFT in their digital wallet and will be connected to their Shopify store. So this could be an NFT that is from the main brand or from a sub-brand connected to the store. Their NFT unlocks whatever experience it is that that brand wants them to have. And then the user goes through a very familiar checkout process, just using their now digital wallet. So this is a quite simple way that brands are able to take advantage of all of the disruption and change happening with Web3. And there are a lot of exciting things that we see going on. One of the really great areas is that this token-gated commerce can be multiplayer and it can be collaborative. So the NFT could be from a brand, a sub-brand, or even a collab partner, and could unlock exclusive access or unlock discounts, et cetera, within other stores. So brands are able to collaborate without having to share users' data. And this is a really exciting thing that's happening in the Web3 world. Some great examples of that would be Super Plastic and Gucci. So Super Plastic is a toy brand. They have artists that create different plastics, different toys, and they collaborated with Gucci. And so now with the NFT, you were able to access exclusive Super Plastics that were Gucci designed and Gucci branded. So this is a really exciting area and a great example of an area of community commerce, of bringing this together and the collaboration between two brands to amplify where they're going. Next slide. So while Web3 may sound like tomorrow's opportunity, C2C is already here. Your consumers are more discerning with their time and with their spend and their loyalties. And so brand loyalty can no longer be assumed. They're harder to reach, they're spread across so many more surfaces, and you have to work overtime to cultivate these audiences and meet them where they are. It's no longer enough to just rely on a retail store, retail location, or paid marketing. That will not work in the future of commerce. So we're evolving from this one-dimensional transactional relationship with shoppers and embracing new ways to connect to consumers. And over the next few months, it's going to be an impactful time for merchants with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the holiday season. And this is a time that can be make or break. And so it's time to act now and really work to connect to your consumer across all of these surfaces and areas. Okay, and that's it. Yep.